Dave Nelson here from Industry Cooking Classes on YouTube, and we are coming at you tonight with an interview with the great Eric Veldman-Miller over at V Miller Meats in Sacramento. He's a good friend of mine. I know I kind of talk about him a lot, and it's just because he's a great guy, and he's doing great things over there. I had Eric on the show a while back, and we had some technical difficulties, and so I just wanted to do it again. We're going to walk through his little shop. We're going to go through the entire case, and we're going to talk about how to cook them and what to do with them. It's just going to all make a lot of sense, okay? He's also going to talk about what it's like to run a whole animal butcher shop. It's very, very different. It's not like a grocery store where they just got boxes and boxes of meat out there. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at that interview. This is some great stuff. Hey, this is Dave Nelson, and welcome to another Between Two Stoves. Today, I got the wonderful, the great Eric V. Miller. He's walking around back there, and he was good enough to let me into the shop today. We're maintaining social distancing, but I wanted to go through the case today and answer a lot of the questions that people ask when they come into a butcher shop. This is a big deal for me because I actually used to work in this little place, and I was answering all of those questions. So I'm going to be the customer this time, and Eric's going to be Eric. And we're going to walk through the case, and we're going to talk about where his meats come from and how to cook them and how it all works in a butcher shop, all right? So here it is. Here is the mighty Eric V. Miller, and he is going to take us around his case today. And what I was thinking about is starting out here on the right side and just kind of working our way through the whole thing, the mile of meat, as I like to call it, all the way over to Sausage Town, okay? And ask an expert all about it, okay? So, Eric, I see we got, let's start over here with eggs. I know I used to sell a lot of eggs when I was in here. People don't realize you got eggs. Where are these eggs coming from, and who are they?
These guys come from an operation called Burroughs Family Farm, and it's a pasture-raised operation. They go out and pick the eggs in the morning. They do a lot of eggs, so they have a lot of chickens. But it's just a family operation, kind of similar to where we source everything from. If we don't want to hang out with these people, we don't do business with them. They're good. Nothing tastes like a really good egg.
So I need to clarify though, when you say they go out and pick the eggs every day, they're not growing on trees now, folks. These are coming from chickens.
From real live pasture-fed chickens.
We should clarify. So next you got chickens here. It says Fogline Farms on them. See if I can get in there. Can you tell us about them a little bit?
Yeah. So Fogline's a really cool operation. It's the only chicken farm with a view of the beach. This guy named Caleb raises chickens in Santa Cruz, and he was like, yeah, we have a view of the beach when I first met him. Lo and behold, I drove down to Santa Cruz, and right on the farm, you're looking at he's got these cool mobile pens, and they move them once or twice a day, and the chickens are all outside, and you like turn around, and there's the ocean. So it's a pretty legit operation.
These chickens don't look at all like pasture-raised chickens I've seen before. I mean, can you compare? I mean, talk about the difference here, because most of them I've seen are pretty scrawny birds.
Yes.
And these look like, look at that.
I think a lot of the pasture birds you see out in the cases at the grocery stores and stuff, you'll see them, and they're a little bit scrawnier. They're the environment that they're in is so well managed. He moves them constantly. They are fed supplementally, so they're not just eating bugs and grubs, but they do eat a little bit of chicken feed out there as well. But he allows the birds to get to market weight, where we have a spec for about 3.5 to 4 pounds on the bird. So until they're going to dress out at those weights, they just keep eating.
I gotta say, these are monster pasture-raised birds from what I've seen.
They're big, and the other kind of nice thing with these guys is they taste better than regular chicken. You pay a little bit more for them, but it tastes like meat. This is actually a meaty bird.
Can I say, in my experience, and not because I'm just a big fan, but all of that is your thing here, right? Everything you have here tastes like it's supposed to taste, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't taste like, your beef does not taste like that Idaho corn-fed at all. It's a completely different thing.
Yeah.
We're going to get there. We're going to get to that beef. Let's talk about these ginormous Liberty duck breasts you got going here. Where's Liberty duck coming from?
Liberty Duck, Sonoma County, world famous Jim Reinhardt, the duck man. We get ducks fresh from him every week. And then we usually keep about 2 of those guys whole for somebody that's a project bird, whole roast duck or whatever. People are doing some pretty cool stuff right now. The rest of the birds we take and we part them out. We sell pairs of duck breasts It's a really cool, quick dinner.
And these guys are the size of those moulard breasts that you see for foie gras ducks. They're enormous, people. And right next to it.
And then we take the legs and we break the legs off, and we do a French method of confit, where we season the legs with 11 secret herbs and spices. It's not a secret. I stole the recipe from Gary Danko years ago. And so the proof's in the pudding. So they get seasoned overnight, and then they get cooked in duck fat for about 2.5 hours until they're ridiculously tender, like falling off the bone. And then we let them cool in the fat overnight. So this is a hell of a process. They cool in the fat overnight, and then they get warmed up again, pulled out, and then dipped 2 or 3 times. So the idea, and it usually works out.
Oh, you're dipping it in?
Yeah, so we keep
like
dipping it in like
candle.
the cool fat, like a candle, so it kind of coats the whole leg, so it like keeps preserving it. But it does a couple things. One, it makes it look like one of those chocolate turtles that sees candies.
Oh,
or
yeah,
peanut cluster or whatever.
I don't know why they don't sell chocolate-covered duck.
Why wouldn't you? And then the other cool thing is when you heat it up, all that duck fat that's surrounding the confit leg will just kind of run out into the pan, and then you can use that fat for cooking potatoes, cooking vegetables, cooking whatever you want in duck fat. And if you haven't cooked in duck fat before, you should.
Oh, I want to bathe in it.
It changes the levels.
Yeah,
a little behind your ear in the afternoon.
Your skin feels wonderful after working with duck or goose or any of that stuff. It's awesome.
Good grease, man.
Okay, let's go to Lamb Town. Okay, I'll go across the top here. Tell me,
Dave, it's been renamed.
It's been renamed.
It's Lambsterdam.
Lambsterdam. You better believe it. Oh my gosh, all of the names are changing. I'm gonna need a retraining if you ever hire me back. Hey, the first cut I'm seeing here is lamb neck. Tell me, Eric, where does that come from on the lamb?
That comes from the neck part. It's the part that holds on the head, Dave.
And what do you want to do with the neck? I mean, that's kind of well, it's an intimidating piece for some people.
It is a little bit, but I think pound for pound, it's probably the most flavorful cut on the animal.
Keep talking.
It's the more muscle gets used and as developed, really strong. Your neck muscles are really strong, right? More that flavor, and there's a ton of collagen and elastin and all kinds of really cool, really good goodie bits in there. But it's tough as nails, so it needs to like slow roast, braise. They sous vide them for a day or two until the meat is really falling off the bone.
So you got something tough. You got to be gentle with it.
Yeah, you can't.
Is that what you're telling me?
Absolutely.
All right, so that's the neck. We're gonna have a bunch of stuff like that, like
Totally.
these shanks, right? Shanks, just like it sounds like, yeah.
Slow cooked, classic French dish. Braised lamb shanks. Kind of goes with everything. Stuff like that is a little more winter focused, but still a lot of people cooking those guys right now. There's ways to go around than heating up your house. Like we just invented putting your Instant Pot or your crock pot in the garage.
There you go. That's a good one.
So
yeah,
that's pretty
yeah.
cool.
And if I may say, induction burners. I kind of talk about induction burners a lot.
There you go.
But yeah.
And then the shoulder chops are really cool. So those guys are super versatile.
Can I just say, I just got some of those last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are awesome.
Like marinate them, grill them, and they eat. It's an amazing cut. There's all kinds of little muscles floating around in there. They're really cool. So you can throw them on the grill and eat them tonight, or they'll braise down really nicely. It'll be akin to kind of like a country style rib on a pork shoulder.
I gotta say, all of these guys, these are some great values right here. All of this stuff has been kind of slow cooking so far, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so now it looks like, hey, we're getting into lamb sirloin.
Yeah, we start moving, kind of start moving back towards the end, but we skip over a little bit in the middle. So like the lamb sirloin comes out of that back kind of the bum section, I guess it would be.
I always call it the love handles back there.
Yeah, fair enough.
Especially with the lamb.
Roast really nice, makes a really nice sliced roast for a Sunday night, or we'll also cut them into chops, and then they'll eat like a really tender sirloin steak if you were talking in beef town. And then right next to them is the lamb T-bone, which is I'm not a lamb guy. Traditionally, it's not my jam.
You look nothing like a lamb, if I may say.
You may. But I've been eating these guys a little more frequently because my family really likes lamb. And these guys, along with like T-bones from beef or whatever, we'll just have a little gander real quick. These guys are really cool. So if this was beef, you'd be looking at like a New York strip and a fillet. So these guys on the grill, a little bit of salt and pepper, about 4 minutes aside, and then a good rest. I'm into these. I'm really into T-bones on beef too right now.
That's one of those sexy chops, though. It looks like that little baby porterhouse steak. It's sexy.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. Speaking of other sexy chops, right next door, little rib chops going on.
I think when people ask for just like we'll just call in and say I just need lamb chops. That's kind of what everybody thinks.
Sure.
They're gonna get.
They're not thinking of shoulder chops.
Right. So we ask a lot of questions with. Our phone call, our phone orders take forever. It's great. We love it.
Operators are standing by.
Exactly. But the rib chops are really cool. It's a really quick dinner. Just cut right off the rack, and then it's
This is a pretty nice looking lamb rack over here. Beautifully done.
fully intact. We generally leave the fat cap on those in case people are going to roast them.
I think a lot of your customers like more fat than other shops. Yeah. This is kind of a different market over here.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
Well, we'll get into pork in just a minute, and I can talk about that too. It's California lamb. It's American lamb, so it's not particularly gamey. It's got a big flavor to it, but it's as far as like the gamey lamb flavor, it's quite mild.
I find that if you like lamb and you want that gamey flavor, go for that sirloin maybe or leg even.
Yeah.
You know those muscles,
Or
the
like
shoulder,
the neck. It's really lamby.
Yeah. Those slow cooked pieces, those are a lot more lamby. But you get the rib chops and the loin. It's almost like eating steak to me.
It's
sometimes.
very similar. Yeah, you'd be hard pressed to tell sometimes.
So who are we getting lamb from these days?
These guys come from AB Ranch in Dixon.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Yeah,
so that's it right there behind
Right
it.
over the Delta, or right over the Causeway.
Awesome.
It's pretty cool. We have a really good relationship with them. Martin and one of his daughters still deliver the lamb. They call them the Lamb Ninjas because like his daughters will roll in like 2 or 3 deep with lambs over their shoulders, and you don't see them. You're just like, oh, lamb got here. You're like,
When did that get
when did that get here? Yeah, they're just here.
Nice.
But they're super great people. They just put forth a really great product for us.
So you actually know all of these ranchers?
Oh, heck yeah.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah, I hang out with those people.
They're on the Christmas card list.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got some pork shanks back there, just like the lamb shanks. They're kind of way back in there.
Yeah.
Another slow cook. What are people doing with pork shanks these days?
Pork shanks roasting, they actually go really good on smokers too.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a lot of smoker. People that are really finessed in using their smokers. They're like, oh, that's really cool. I can do that. It makes phenomenal like Chile Verde and braises and things like that. So it's not necessarily like a showstopper party. Like, hey, come on over. We're gonna eat lamb or pork shanks. Although I would show up to that party anytime.
I would show up to that party with a raincoat because that stuff is so delicious and
sticky. I was wondering why they don't sell pork shanks at the Renaissance Festival.
You would just be a sticky mess, though. It would be stuck to you.
It's so much better than turkey.
You wouldn't be able to get the bone out of your hand at the end of the day. Awesome stuff. So you got your pork spare ribs here, pretty straightforward. Are you guys moving a lot of ribs in this place, or
moving a lot of ribs right now?
do people need to call ahead for that kind of thing, or
Not
you
so
kind
much
of have
anymore.
them? Okay.
We're getting a lot of pigs in every week these days. So we generally have a lot of ribs. But we generally, the cool part we phone call a day rather. Hey, do you have baby back ribs? And the truth is no. Generally, it's spare ribs.
It's just not the kind of thing that you're cutting.
No,
you're just not cutting those because your chops go away when you do that.
Yeah, so we're like you said, I don't know if we're an anomaly. We don't sell chicken parts. We'll break, if you buy a whole chicken, we'll cut it into parts for you, no problem. We generally don't have baby back ribs, but with ribs in particular, those spare ribs are so meaty. The whole side of that thing is a little bit of cartilagey bits, and like if you were to go to like an old barbecue joint, like rib tips, that's where all those come from.
Right, yeah.
So it's just little cartilagey bits, and there's so much good eating in there. So we leave those all intact. So that's a full spare rib.
Pork shoulder bone in?
Yeah, so that's, there's 2 different bits of pork shoulder as
Yeah.
well. This is more, or not more. This is a what side?
Look at
Oh, that side's
marbling
really
in this
pretty.
guy. That
Yeah,
is
look at
just
that.
pretty to me. Things like that are gorgeous.
So that's when people say they want pork butt or pork shoulder. That's generally what they're talking about.
So how come everybody wants the pork's butt?
It's not the butt, Dave. It's the shoulder. It's my favorite joke. But that's what's called a Boston butt or a pork shoulder. A little bit of bone action going on in there. These guys go really good on a smoker. There's lots of different muscles going on in there. Super tender once it's smoked or roasted, and it makes pulled pork and all that stuff. It's kind of everyone's go-to, right? I don't have an issue with that. That's not my not my
you
thing.
do have an issue?
But I do have one issue, which is this guy's little brother. When you make like pulled pork out of the butt, there's some big fat seams in the middle, and it's just it's a lot of fat to deal with for me. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'll eat it. But lately we've been going for home, and like if I were to venture out to a barbecue, or if anyone were throwing a barbecue and wanted me to bring something, a lot of times I'll take this guy, which is the picnic shoulder. So it's kind of the leggier part of that shoulder.
Can you show us where the picture's short? Yeah, show us on
Yeah,
either on you or on that.
These guys are these are beautiful artists' renditions when you come into the shop, but not technically accurate. So that's the ham, which it's the back end.
butt.
It's the pig's butt.
Yeah, right.
The shoulder is more commonly referred to as the butt. So we're talking the picnic is down a little bit down here. The Boston's up here.
Okay, so it's that lower
It's
arm
the
portion
lower
there.
arm. So
And you can see where it tapers down.
Yeah, so
there.
we're going into the
Yeah,
shank.
yeah.
So the shank could be, that's probably backwards, but the shank
There
could
you
be
go.
kind of like that, right?
It's a backward shank.
Okay, whole animal butcher. This is fun. A little bit of bone in there, but a lot less fat. So when you do pull out the carnitas and then you go to shred it and stuff, there's not those big globules, so you get a little bit more bang for your buck. The meat is ridiculously tender, super flavorful. You're cooking it forever, so it's going to be tender. This is the new jam.
I don't know how many people are out there that are like me, but I see this stuff and I am just like, oh, I'm drooling over it. I'm not drooling on it here, people, but it's just gorgeous stuff, okay?
It's a little late in the day for me to talk about food. I'm really hungry,
So there's the classic pork tenderloin, okay? So everything has been kind of a slow cook so far. Oh, I didn't even mention this belly out front.
Yeah.
But we can all see that's where the bacon comes from. You can see that. Beautiful.
So, just to backtrack a little bit.
Yeah.
All the cases, the vast majority of butchers set up their cases very similarly. So whether it's right to left, left to right, however they set it up, and I don't know why I'm doing this because it's not the Muppet Show.
It's helping though. I feel like it's helping.
A little more action.
For visual learners.
Generally, it's with us. It's always the right side of the case as you walk in is the slow cooking, the roasting, braising, and then kind of middle meats. So kind of all where you could
Swing both ways.
Yeah, you could do either way. A little more flexibility in cooking, I guess you could say. And then as you get to the left side, would be more of like a grilling, the hot fast.
So it looks like
things like that.
hot fast sears, so it looks like chops down here, and right above that are chops too. It all makes sense.
Yeah.
It just makes so much sense.
So if you're looking for something to braise or roast, you direct yourself to the right side of the case. That's just kind of the way we do it. And then usually there's a pretty good spread in there for this time of night. We cut two different kinds, cut 4 different kinds of pork chops on a daily basis. So if you were to call and say give me 4 pork chops, generally speaking, if you're not more descript or we don't fry a whole lot, you're like, just give me 4 pork chops. We will go to the bone and loin chop.
Yeah.
It's a little bit easier to grill, a little less fat going on the outside. It's kind of what everybody thinks of as a pork chop.
Yes.
It's kind of like the rib chop, same story. Bigger, a little bit, a little fattier, closer to the shoulder. Off that loin would be the pork ribeye.
So there's the ribeye.
So some of those guys are a little bit more shouldery, but they grill really, really well. The meat from these pigs is ridiculous.
And you can see what I love about these chops, and I will just say I am very well acquainted with these chops. I dream about them at night sometimes.
Me too.
They are delicious chops. And what I love is that point out where the tip of the bone is, and it almost eats like pork belly right there. It's just meat and fat and meat and fat. I just love that section. It's
fatty.
yeah, fatty and
So-
delicious.
Those guys, like the ribeyes, like people that one piece of advice I always give on the ribeye chops is don't close the lid. As soon as you close that lid, the opportunity for that to flare up is like insurmountable. You're probably gonna get a fireball when you open that lid. So it's a little more finesse on the grill, but well worth it. And then that other little nugget back there is the secreto.
Well, I was going to ask about that because Gwyneth Paltrow just cannot stop talking about the secreto. So where's that secreto coming from?
It's out of the picnic shoulder, actually. It's technically a part of the brisket muscle group.
Okay.
So it, by definition, should be really tough and require a long, slow cook. But as you know, whatever nature provides, as it comes out of that muscle group, it cooks really quickly and eats kind of like a flank steak.
It looks like a flank steak, like you can cut across the grain there and have a nice tender little nibble there. Beautiful.
They're awesome for like stir fry and like we grill and just slice and throw them into like tacos and whatever.
Yeah, awesome. I think any of those like flank-like meats are awesome for like tacos, fajitas, things like that. All of that stuff.
Like 10-year-old marinated and grill it like you gotta cook it a little bit longer because it's like 5 maybe 6 minutes aside and then you're ready to eat. It's so good. All the fatty bits get crispy. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
gem.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like I don't think we brought it up last time, but there's a finite amount of those. Like I get 6 sides of pork a week, so 3 whole hogs, and there's 6 of them.
Yeah, that's what
it.
you got. And
Yeah.
that's the thing about a Whole-Beast Butcher shop, okay? Some of these cuts you're only going to get what you get.
Yeah, we're
and,
out.
And that's kind of why it's good to get to know your butcher, folks.
Well, yeah,
Get
and
to
it's
know
not
your meat man.
the secreto in particular isn't something I can call Seiko and be like, hey, I need a case of secreto.
Can you throw that name out again? Talk about Llano Seco.
Rancho Seiko, established in
there.
1861. Those guys have been our predominant pig farm since we opened. I don't think we've missed a week from them since we opened.
Oh, wow.
So almost 5 years. There are, for us, we have a really good relationship with Charlie and Jamie. That Charlie owns the ranch and Jamie kind of runs things. They bend over backwards for us as we can get it once we get into sausage and stuff when the need's there. But they get us what we need.
Yeah.
And they're really cool. They're on the up and up. They really care for the animals, and it tastes like it.
They are good people.
They're good
worked
folks.
a few events with
Yeah.
those guys. Yeah, they're awesome. We got your ground beef over here.
Ground beef, and then which we do. That's a good topic too. Why buy beef from a butcher shop?
Why buy beef from a butcher shop?
All the beef that's in that grind comes from 1, maybe 2 cows. If you're looking at a grocery store or other commodity style meat markets, it could be from upwards of 100 animals. You never know what you're gonna get.
You can have animals from New Zealand,
All over the place.
Australia,
Yeah.
New York, New Jersey.
Right.
Gosh knows where
So,
they're coming from.
yeah.
All mixed together into one burger.
So yeah, and so with us, all of our beef comes from right now. It's all 100% Stemple Creek Ranch.
That's Stemple Creek Ranch. I think those are the stars of the show over here. I love these guys. I rave about Stemple Creek. I love them.
They have a great relationship with Lauren and his family. We go out and stay on the ranch with them and be quiet for a day or two. It's awesome. But like with the ground beef, we start. It usually starts with a base of chuck, and then whatever's getting cut throughout the day. So we always shoot for about the stuff that's in the case is about an 80-20 blend, 80% lean, 20% fat. Yeah, so there's stuff out of the chuck. There's probably a little bit of tenderloin trim in there, There's ribeye trim for sure. There's New York trim in there. Sirloin. If they got into the backs, I'm not sure if they got into the backs of that, but you know, with a fair degree of accuracy, we can like tell you exactly what's in it.
Yeah.
But with that 80-20 blend, we figured out over the years we eat a lot of burgers. It really doesn't. It doesn't really matter with the specificity of the cut that goes in there. As long as we hit that 80-20 balance, it's phenomenal. With that Stemple Creek, I don't know if I mentioned that, but Stemple Creek finishes all their beef on grass. All of our beef is finished on grass. We don't bring in stuff that is grass fed, meaning it's lived, you know, a good portion of its life on grass, and then it goes to the feedlot where they pump it full of whatever, and it gets a lot fatter.
Surrey, I believe they feed them.
It's just the natural, cleanest way. Really high in nutrients, all that stuff. I just think it's the right way to raise beef.
So
why we
lots of
have
people
that.
say grass fed, but what they're really hoping for is grass finished. That's what you want to ask about.
So that's the big one, because grass fed beef is great. It's one step closer to great, but the grass finished beef is a very, very small portion of the beef market, and Stemple does a really good job.
We're about to see how awesome they do at it, because you got some nice marbling down there.
Yeah,
It's unreal.
there's some stuff that, like, you know, it's never I wouldn't say never, but it's never gonna, like, basically, not never. Every once in a while you look at it and you're like, prime.
I know. Yeah.
But
yeah.
it's usually like a really high choice, right in the middle of choice, right at a high choice, because the animals just don't naturally fatten that much like that.
Let me take a dive down here and
Sure.
show people what you're talking about. Look at the marbling, the fat in that filet mignon right there. This is grass-fed meat. That's almost unheard of right there. The marbling in these New Yorks, that's pretty good. Maybe when we say prime and choice, we're talking about the amount of marbling here. I don't know. Would you say that's about in choice land? Yeah.
Prime. The trick with grass-fed beef or grass-finished beef rather too is they don't grate it.
None of this is actually graded. We're just amateurs sitting here spitballing
I've
on the
just seen
grades.
enough beef that I can give you a pretty good eye at what it looks like. Sorry.
We're just spitballing. Let's go through these off-market cuts real quick.
Yeah, so on the top shelf we got the hanger steak, which is muscle out of in the diaphragm group. There's only one on the animal, and it usually doesn't show up on diagrams. Like if you go to look for like the food service cuts of beef and where they come from, but it's a little bit. It's kind of like if you wanted to start trying to eat organ meats. It's mild enough, but it's definitely an organ.
Yeah, it has that irony taste to it.
Yeah,
that metallic,
or minerally,
yeah,
I like
minerally.
to call it. The petite tender, which is right next to it, comes out of the middle of the chuck. It's called sometimes called a chuck tender or a teres major, if you're a doctor.
If you're into that stuff.
That sort of thing.
If you're a doctor.
Really cool. I think sometimes they call it a bistro fillet as well. So it's a really quick kind of sear and then slice. Restaurants will do them in like medallions sometimes too.
And you want to go for medium rare on this. No more
Medium
than
rare,
medium
yeah.
right?
The leaner the cut, the less you want to cook it.
Yeah. Good
right
point.
next to that, we've got down below we've got flat iron steaks. These Tahoe tenders come off of the opposite side of the bone of the flat iron. Like
So the other side of the shoulder blade, basically, right?
Yeah. And they're just as tender as a flat iron, maybe a little bit leaner, but I've eaten them side by side and it's negligible.
Here, maybe they can see the flat iron back there. You can really see the marbling. Boy, that's insane marbling in that flat iron. Grass-fed, grass-finished. Insane. Stemple Creek. I love it.
There it is. And then the other one back there is a Merlot. It's also called a velvet. But we called it a velvet for a couple of years, and we couldn't sell them. And then we called it a Merlot, and people were like, "Oh, I'll try that." But it's a cool little muscle out of the back leg, out of the round, and it is lean, but its sucker is tender and just so flavorful. It's a phenomenal searing and sear that with a little bit of chimichurri, something with a little bit of fat to it.
Oh, right on. Yeah.
So a leaner steak you want to serve with something with a little bit of fat to it, kind of balance out those flavors. But it's really flavorful. It's really good, but it doesn't like most of the stuff out of the back, it really doesn't like to be cooked past like medium rare. You can push to medium, but if you're a well done person, that probably is not your jam.
When you're talking about those leg cuts, they're lean cuts. Yeah. You gotta have medium rare.
Yeah, I don't care. However you want your steak, that's cool. The beef steaks are phenomenal, like utility, crock pot, instant pot kind of slow braise. The meat becomes very tender, really rich. There's so much little connective tissue and stuff going on in that shank that it just kind of melts away once it's braised. A little bit of marrow in that bone, so like anything you braise in, that the liquid will just like almost form a sauce by itself, and it's just like, man.
Yeah, it's super gelatinous. That's another one
So
that's
good.
just gets you're sticky by the end of the meal.
Yeah, you're just like you're like wiping your teeth.
And it's also awesome for like taking to Mexico, you know, Chile, Colorado, or
Oh,
something
yeah.
like that. It's super good for
No,
chili.
barbecue
and
beef,
things like that. Yeah.
whole shanks are really cool on a smoker. Take forever, but it's worth it. It's really, really good.
Speaking of smoker, there's half a brisket up
That's
here.
yeah, that's a brisket flat. We sell whole briskets, we sell half briskets, pretty much whatever you want.
Hey, where's that brisket come from for the nice
It's
people
like the
out there?
breast.
It's like the breast area, kind of like
front,
front
like
there.
when you see a big fat cow, it's like that's
Yeah.
the brisket.
So
So
you're
there's
eating-
the point and the flat. The point is like the big fatty kind of Texas barbecue part of it. The flat is more, it's a little bit leaner. It's more akin to, or would be more like if you wanted to braise something, I usually point people towards that one a little bit. Just a little less fat to deal with.
Gotcha.
And then
Let's see, you got oxtails back there. Oh, you got a
Yeah.
lot of oxtails.
we got some extra oxtails this week from the ranch. And then, so those guys, you know, like oxtail stew, braises, all that stuff, really cool. Short ribs, classic braise. We've been selling a lot of beef plate this summer. I think people have really kind of moved into the joy of like long, slow smoked cooked meats.
So
And
when you say
so-
plate, can you kind of describe that a little bit?
yeah, so it's basically with the short ribs, we cut the short ribs into 2-inch strips, basically, off of this plate that's about fully intact. It's, I think, 7 bones, but just the meaty part of the plate that we cut the short rib off of is 4 bones. And that's like the meatiest part, the most flavorful, all that
the
stuff.
best
So,
meaty
like a
ribs
whole
that you
plate's
got.
like 10 to 14 pounds. And that's something like you would, you know, dry rub overnight and then throw on your smoker for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours. And then, yeah, just like go Flintstones on it. Just,
I love it.
and then,
Yeah.
you know, the ever popular chuck roast. Chucks are great on the smoker too. People don't look at that. But,
you know, you
everybody
just
smokes
said it.
pork shoulder, but why would you smoke a chuck?
Yeah, you just said it to me, and even I was just like, wow, smoke a beef chuck. Who does that? That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's super good. And then do like classic pot roasts and stuff like that are really cool for like instant pot dinners. I really like the chuck.
I love looking at the marbling. That's what I'm showing off right now. I just love looking at chuck. It's beautiful.
It's just a really cool. It's, you know, same these pork shoulder. It's so delicious. Why would you want to eat that?
Why wouldn't you want to eat that?
There's so many different things you can do with it. So, one's right next to it, the tri-tip.
Oh, tri-tip up front.
People are really love the tri-tip.
And you're doing a little dry rub there next to it here and there?
Yeah,
a little bit.
So, we don't marinate a whole lot of meats like kind of like we talked about earlier, because we found over the last while most of our customers and the people that are coming in here are looking for a really high quality meat, and if they're going to do something special to it or they have some sort of marinade or whatever that they really excited about, they're going to do it. And the secondary part of it is this is like, as far as like grass-fed, grass-finished beef, this is the pinnacle. This is as good as it gets. But with this stuff, it's like,
You want to taste the terroir.
you want to taste the meat. The terroir.
Yeah,
You
the
can-
terroir.
Goddamn terroir. You know, the truth is it's just salt and pepper. Like,
Yeah.
that's what I use
Me
99% of the time at home.
I don't do much else to the meats that I get here.
So, being a whole animal butcher, you know, 1.5 beef a week, 2 beef a week, that dictates generally how much tri-tip we have. Sometimes we get supplementals from the ranch, so we'll have a little bit more, especially around holidays and stuff.
So Stemple Creek is able to hook you up with extra.
They are
extra
now.
cuts.
This is super new.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. For the longest while we were 100% whole animal. You know, it was pretty cool. Kind of, you know, at times like people, I just want a tri-tip, and you're like, I don't have that, but I have this.
Yeah.
So that's one of the cool things about. This is a segue to where I was going to go. This is one of the cool things about a whole animal butchery, right? So you come in looking for one thing, and they don't have it. But we call I don't have it's a game we like to call I don't have that, but I have this.
Yeah. I've played it many times here.
And I love it. I love working Sundays when we can start to get low on inventory, because you introduce people into new cuts. So what had happened over the last in the beginning was we'd blow through, like, beef would come in on Wednesday. By Thursday morning, tri-tips are gone for the week, you know, so it'd be like a whole weekend of like, sorry, we don't have that. And really quickly we turned on to this other called the picanha. It's also called a culotte, which is kind of like the South American. It's like if Colorado, Texas, and California eat tri-tip, South America eats culotte or picanha. So it's cool. It's a true piece of sirloin. So it's a little bit more tender than a tri-tip to begin with. It's generally a little bit better marble. It's got a lot more moisture to it, like a sirloin. Sirloins are really tender, really juicy. It's a really juicy piece of meat, which is why, like, Sizzler uses it, because you can cook the hell out of it and it'll still be juicy.
It's a value cut.
It'll be like gray all the way through, but it'll still be juicy. And the picanha, so we're like, well, we don't have any tri-tips, but try this. And I can't think of anyone that we said, you should try this picanha, that comes back like the next week and is like, oh, I still want the tri-tip. Like, they switch gears pretty quick. It's really cool. There's not a throwaway piece on the whole roast. Like where the tri-tip, there's that little middle, like little nugget piece in there. So I like to call it the mother-in-law piece. No offense.
Mother-in-law piece. No offense.
I love my mother-in-law. She's awesome. And I wouldn't feed her that part, but that's kind of the jokey part of it. But it's 100% yield on that guy. There's a little fat cap on it that gets crispy like a New York strip.
That's what I like about it.
Yeah.
That the tri-tip doesn't really give me. You know, it's got that fat cap, which we're not seeing. It's upside down, but trust me, people, it's there. You better believe it.
Yeah. So
hey,
we leave fat on everything as much as we can.
let's talk about flap meats. FLAP.
Flap meats.
Because I see a bavette. I see a skirt back there.
Yep. So skirts, but that's the what else is in that group?
Flank? Oh, there's a flank right there.
Flanks in the front. Yeah.
There's a flank.
Those three are the big ones off the skirts actually off the rib, but flap meats. So slice and serve, which is kind of I think it's becoming a little bit more of a thing, rather than like everybody gets their own individual steak. You know, you buy a couple pounds of skirt steak and you feed, you know, several people with it, because people aren't necessarily like, oh, I need a 22-ounce porterhouse. Well, I need 6 of them because I'm having 6 guys over. Like, you know, it's a little more sharing, so your guest can actually take as little as they want or as much as they want. So the skirt steaks are real, you know, a very classic, you know, marinade, hot grill, roll them up, make those goofy little pinwheel things out of them. And then the other one that I really like on there is that.
That's what I'm looking at right now.
Which it's just in general, it's a little bit thicker than a skirt, very similar texture. Like you take the texture of a skirt steak and the flavor and well, not quite flavor, but you took the texture of the skirt and texture of the hanger and kind of went like that. So it's got a little cool little like almost snap tooth to it. Mm-hmm. Man, ridiculously good.
What I love about all these flaps, you can really see the grain of that meat there. That's why it's so great for marinating. The marinades just slide into those little grooves in there and soak in. It's beautiful stuff.
If I'm taking something home, like, and I know we're gonna go, you know, like Asian marinade or something like that, and I'm not just like I'm definitely going to some foreign land with that meat. The bavette usually goes because it goes a long way. A little bit goes a long way, and it's absolutely delicious. It's another cool cut because with cooking at home a little bit more, and you want a little bit left over, that bavette actually starts to eat a little bit more tender as you kind of climb up the thing. So eating it rare, it's going to be chewy. Yeah. Eating it medium rare, it's going to eat like a medium rare steak. If you eat it medium, it's actually going to be a little more tender because some of that tissue and stuff's going to break down, right?
It's a nice one for like those roulades that you braise off and things like that.
Yeah. So
beautiful.
What's that one? Like old, I think it's Italian.
Bracciolo,
whatever,
yeah.
with all the stuff and you roll them up.
I'm glad we both knew that.
It's usually like, or the Germans do it with something else too, but it's usually done with like thin slips off the top round or bottom round. I'll sub that one in there, and it becomes like not like, oh, this is dry like grandma made.
Yeah.
It becomes like fancy restaurant. You know?
The Germans use slide a lot of that round in there.
Well, why wouldn't you?
Very
So
lean
it's
stuff, yeah.
everybody's got to eat it too.
Yeah.
And then like the flank steaks are great. You know, who doesn't like flank steak?
Who doesn't?
Quick cook, hot, fast, spicy, delicious.
You got sirloins behind that.
Yeah.
Beautiful value cut, man. I am all
Totally.
over those. Those are
Bang
gorgeous.
for your buck in there, that's one of like I would say like the sirloin, the bavette, the Tahoe tender, the Merlot. Those guys are all like bang for your buck cuts. So good. Sirloin, a couple pounds of sirloin can feed a family of 4 easily, with probably some snacks.
With snacks,
Yeah, snacks for later.
I got a couple of those at home. Believe it or not.
And then like
The Denver up front that's like my favorite one. I rave about the Denver steak these days, Eric. I quite rave.
the Denver's cool because it's another one of those cuts that you can go really anywhere you want. You can cook it however you want. It is part of the chuck, flat. When it's left intact, they call it the Japanese name for it is the
Zabaton.
zabuton.
The cushion.
The little pillow. And so you can braise them, you can grill them, slice them. They're phenomenal. It's got a really, really high fat content to it. Really nicely marbled.
Tender.
So it'll eat very, very nicely rare all the way on up to about medium. Once you start getting into well, things start to get dry.
Yeah.
It's true. But, like however you want to eat your steak, cool.
It's just like a New York's not so pretty cousin. Yeah.
Similar.
It's the way I cook it up and eat it and everything, man.
Yeah.
It's just awesome. Where's that baseball steak from?
That's the other cut of the back leg out of the round. Just a nice little muscle. Back east a lot of times they call them salad steaks.
Salad steak?
Yeah, so it's like, cook them like 2 minutes on the side and then slice them, throw them in a salad. Nice lean steak, just a really good flavor to them. They're really cool.
Is that another one of those off-market cuts? You don't get a lot of those?
Not a lot. There's about 5 on a side. So,
Okay,
yeah.
so that's respectable.
So you got 10 off an animal.
Well, we got the New York's coming up next, I think, here.
Pretty straightforward there off the short line. We cut a boneless. It's weird. We cut New York boneless all the time, and then on the weekends we cut T-bones and porterhouses off the short line as well. So we get 2 beef in like we did today. Half of those guys will go, like 2 strips will go for New York strips, and the other 2 short lines will be left intact with the fillet on them for T-bones and porterhouses.
You just mentioned filet. Let's jump over to that.
Yeah, sure.
That filet is just gorgeous, I gotta say. Again, grass-fed animals. Look at the marbling on that.
It's a really cool muscle. There's 2 on the animal. It's completely untrimmed. Completely untrimmed. We call it catfished. So because it's just big like a catfish. They're about 4.5, maybe 5 pounds coming off the animal. And then once it's totally trimmed and denuded, all the silver skin, all the stuff you don't want to eat is peeled off of it. But a whole tenderloin is maybe 3.5 pounds. So there's a lot of trim. It's a finite amount of it. So that's, the price on those guys it reflects it.
Yeah. But this is meat that you're not going to see anywhere else in the world. This is, and you see people splurging on Kobe beef and things like that. It's like astronomically priced compared to this.
Oh yeah,
But this is like every bit the experience of eating, in my opinion. You eat this beef from Stemple Creek, from Marin.
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't taste like the stuff from, like I said, Idaho corn-fed. It doesn't taste like the stuff from Argentina
Right.
or Africa or anywhere else on the planet.
Yeah.
It's very unique.
Yeah, so filet gets like a, I don't know, with like chefs and cooks and food snobs, a lot of times filet is like, oh, yeah, I don't eat that because it's so good, it doesn't taste like a beef. It's just kind of, these guys taste like $1 million.
Yeah.
They really do. It would definitely change your perception of a filet.
Beautiful stuff.
And then, you know, I think you're the ribeyes right there.
I think we did. Did we do ribeyes yet?
Not yet, but that's, you know, that's the king of the case, you know.
Yeah.
People really love ribeyes, and we can't keep them in stock. We go through, you know, those. Generally speaking, we'll get all 4 ribs in, like this morning when everything came in. Usually by early morning Saturday, it's all gone.
Yeah.
People just really into ribeyes. They're easy to cook. They're really delicious. They have a wow factor when you put it on a plate for a guest or, you know, at a party or something.
I'm getting hungry right now.
People are like, oh, that's so cool. And oh, I just love ribeye. And who doesn't? They're great. They're super flavorful. There's a lot of fat going on in them. But
there's so many cool cuts.
there's so many
right?
other
It's
cuts
just so-
that, like, I don't know if I'd rather eat other cool cuts, but like, that's aside from the fact that I think I've eaten 3 ribeyes
Oh, don't get me wrong. I still eat them.
in the last 5 years, just because we never have. Like,
Yeah.
we run out of them.
Yeah, they fly out of here.
Yeah. So,
but like if you're not eating ribeyes, then what about flat irons? Are you into those much these days?
I eat flat irons. That's probably definitely my kid's favorite steak.
Yeah.
It's the second most tender muscle on the animal next to the filet. It's got a much higher fat content to it, so it's got a little more flavor to it than a filet does. Super easy to cook. Filets are hard to cook, man. One of my first jobs as a grill cook, self-anointed as the worst grill cook ever at the Napa Valley Grill in Yountville. I had like, it was a live oak.
that guy.
Dude, it was a live oak grill, so you had to keep the fire stoked, and I didn't really grasp that. And they're like 30 fillets or whatever on the grill at once. I'm just like, I didn't know what I was doing. And
This is how everybody learns.
dude, if it was like 20 fillets, I think 15 of them came back, and the other 5 people were probably like, just leave him alone. He's probably got problems. And yeah, that's an absolute true story.
So
Fillets are hard to cook.
Fillets are hard to
so
cook. Is the
flat
moral.
irons are really cool because value on those guys is a little bit better in my opinion. And it's another one of those thin sliced steaks where it goes way further than you'd think. So normally we recommend about a half pound of meat per person on an average steak or whatever. Ribeyes are usually cut to a pound, so like theoretically they'd be sharing steaks, but most people don't share those; they just eat them. But the flat iron's really cool. So it's about a 4-minute cook on each side, really, really hot, and then about a 10-minute rest, and then you just slice it about as thick as your pinky. And man, it really is just buttery and flavorful and just super delicious.
I think butter's a good word because they're almost rich.
Oh,
It's
totally
almost
rich. Yeah,
a
no,
rich
absolutely.
Eating experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that, stuff that goes in there, like I said, porterhouses and T-bones usually on the weekends. There's a few things that I don't see in there. I wasn't breaking today, so I didn't see everything that went in. But it's a pretty solid representation. Usually when people come in, if they're looking for something in particular, like we say, oh, you're looking for something particular or whatever. If you don't see it, ask. Which is one thing.
Because you got parts back
I got
there.
parts, man.
Yeah.
A lot of it, a lot of the like stuff from the round and stuff. If you wanted to do a round roast or a top round roast or something for jerky, if you wanted to make jerky for yourself, or a lot if you wanted something bigger, smaller, whatever. That's what butchers do. Like we help feed that need of whatever you really want. It just kind of moves into like my I guess obligatory praise the people that work here portion. I've got guys.
Sing it out. Yeah,
that,
talk about the crew.
From one guy that worked at Zuni Cafe for a bazillion years. One guy that worked at Camino in Oakland, which is a whole animal restaurant. They cook from nose to tail. I've got my head butcher has cut and was trained by some of the best butchers in San Francisco. He's a beast. We got another guy, Nick, who is we've been training him how to break whole animals. Like he's getting really fat, like scary fast. So I just stay away. Really good, and I think they're all very good at their jobs. And I think one of the really cool things is they all really like what they do, and I'm really grateful for that. But also, they're all so good at it that all they want to do is share. So like, how do I cook that? And it's not like throw it in the pan, dummy. It's like 100% like you, with a couple of them, namely one, you're gonna get a little more information than you asked for, but like, damn, it's gonna turn out perfect. You know, it's really cool for me to like every once in a while take a step back and just watch the machine go. And these guys are so into it and so happy to help, and literally like will bend over backwards to get you what you need.
Well, sounds like they're going to be able to train the next crew for V Miller Part 2.
V Miller 2, yeah.
In Beverly Hills.
I was thinking Malibu. Oh, Malibu. You know what we're gonna call it? The Malibu-cherie.
Ooh, the Malibu-cherie.
I think Gwyneth Paltrow's on board. We're still in meetings.
Okay. Well,
but you know,
if she is, then I'm there. I want to help with the opening.
Yeah.
It's been years since I've seen her. We gotta go down to Sausage Town.
She's gotten taller. I don't know.
She's gotten taller.
This is kind of my. It's a little wrapped up, but
it's a little wrapped up, but we get it. We're here at the end of the day.
This is kind of where the whole animal butchery thing kind of all comes to a head. So we bring in whole animals, like all the big fancy and not so fancy, all the big, cuts, take it home, cook it, here you go. Pretty straightforward. Where we get into like the charcuterie side of things, which, is basically preservation and manipulating meat. Preservation?
Preservation.
Is that a word?
You're doing it.
It is now. And then, so we do some cured meats, and then we make, a few different kinds of bacon. We have our classic bacon, and then we have our dirty bacon, which is cured in our barbecue espresso rub, which we make with a couple of other local businesses. Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. Chocolate Fish Coffee Roasters, All Spicery.
The All Spicery.
And V Miller Meats, long time friend of the show.
And brought to you by. So we do like bacon and that stuff, and then we make. We take this. This case in particular is like the culmination of all, like I said, the whole animal butchery. So all the little bits and pieces that don't necessarily translate to putting it in a case, take it home, cook it. So we'll do pâtés, terrines, a lot more pâtés and terrines in the wintertime. But we do like bacon off the breast and the belly of the lamb. Beef bacon we still do off of the navel of the beef. Tongue pastrami, brisket pastrami. We make mortadella. We smoke our own hams off the same pigs, and all these meats. Everything that's made here.
This is all you.
Is all us.
Yeah, this is all you guys.
But we make 2, 3. Well, depending on what you're looking at. A few different kinds of hot dogs, which are beef. Our hot dogs are about 80-90% beef. We use a little bit of pork fat in there to balance out. Otherwise, they eat dry. None of this stuff is formulated. We don't put these things together to fit into necessarily like a nutritional footprint. It's not like
it's simpler than that.
Like it's a lot simpler.
Yeah,
Does it taste good? Yep.
And does it eat well? And,
that's the real trick. So like, so the fat content and all that stuff. So we make the hot dogs that get smoked, and then when I was a little kid, I would my mom turned me on to hot dogs when I was a little kid, so I'm like a hot dog fiend. So it took me a really long time to figure out how to make hot dogs with like a snap to them and the whole nine. I'll bore you with that some other day.
Well, it was back in my day, actually, when you were playing with that.
But I figured it out. So they have like a snap to them, like an old style Frankfurter. And then I was playing around with a German style, this thing called a Käsenkreiner, which is a German style cheese dog. So playing around with that. But it's kind of like when you make tomato soup. that benchmark is like,
Campbell's.
does it taste like Campbell's?
Yeah. Yeah.
You hit the mark, right?
Yeah.
So those guys were those little Oscar Mayer like hot dogs with the cheese and stuff in them that like, oh god, they're probably like, you wouldn't eat them in public. You know what I mean?
I get you.
Like,
I
but
get
you'd eat them in a dark closet and
But
just be like, this is so
you
good.
The whole package of them at home.
Totally.
Love it,
You
yeah.
eat them cold, you don't care. So I figured out how to make those. So we make a cheese dog with it's a nice Gouda cheese in it with our really good pork. And then we just kind of like roll into the sausages where, again, like, just to reiterate, these guys are made from the same whole animals that are raised on the farms we talked about a little while ago, not bringing in like commodity pork, just in sausage, and
You don't
it's
have,
not made with like,
The Nicaraguan hogs
no, it's not made with like,
blended in with the New Jersey hogs.
right, it's not like super, like, I don't want to say crappy, but like, it's not made with like commodity meat. These are all like, this is part of the whole animal butchery, so this is all how it comes together. And then like the sausages, so we like started making, started off with like brats and Italian sausage, and then folded in a hot Italian sausage, and we kind of came into a lot of things like, what would we want to eat? What would I want to eat right now? So we adapted like a lot of traditional recipes, like an Argentine chorizo. We started with like a Mexican chorizo base, and then we fold in a bunch more herbs to it and bind it with red wine so it's not crumbly. But man, we're like that and seafood, you win. But then we, like our traditional, like our German style bratwurst, we use a beer from a brewery in Newcastle called Hildebrand Farmhouse. That guy just popped in, I don't know, a while ago, just like, hey, we make brats for us. I was like, well, yeah, do you want a sample? He's like, dude, you don't recognize me, but I've been eating your brats for months. So we always have like Grandma's Italian and bratwurst, and then usually something spicy, and then
Can we shout out Nixtaco?
we can totally shout out. That's the next evolution. So Nick's was a little bit different story. Somebody asked us to make the sausage that Nixtaco makes, and so I'm friends with Patricio. I called him up, and he's like, yeah, sure, here's the recipe. So he sent me the recipe. I'm like, this isn't a sausage recipe. So I've taken some liberties with it.
Oh.
It was very good, but now this one's like, it's just a balance of like sweet and hot and spicy and just rich, fresh, because there's a bunch of like a whole gang of fresh cilantro in there. So the Overlord is it's a Hungarian style sausage, a traditional Hungarian sausage with boiled garlic, caraway, and Hungarian paprika. Philly cheesesteak sausage comes strictly from like Tuesday morning. Like, what do you guys want to do for lunch? It was like, I want Philly cheesesteaks, and like, so we basically took roasted peppers, sweated onions, garlic, bunch of herbs, Worcestershire sauce, a little bit of vinegar, Swiss cheese, kind of ground everything together and stuffed it in a tube, and it tastes like the sandwich. Like the Chile Verde was
Chile Verde?
like, being a Colorado native, like Chile Verde, like my blood system's like at least a third actual green chili.
That was
And,
always a huge seller, by the way.
Still is.
Yeah.
And so that's, we get fresh chilies, we get fresh tomatillo, we get stuff from local family farms to use in the sausages and use in the prepared meals and stuff like that. So the Chile Verde tastes like Chile Verde, and then it was really cool. So we kind of adapt with what's available here in Sacramento or fresh anyway. So right now, like our basil peach sausage is just like, 40 pounds a week, it's just gone. And then we get a little weird. There's guys like doing this, guys and gals, doing this across the country. There's not a lot of us, so we have to kind of support one another however we can. I was talking to my friend Kevin at McCann's Local Meats in Rochester, New York. We were just bullshitting, and he was like, what kind of sausage did you do? And I was like, oh, I got this basil peach that's going really well, and we got this other thing called the Overlord. And I'm like, yeah, I'll just send you some recipes. He's like, cool. And a couple days later on Instagram, I see like Kevin just like, hey, morning Rochester. And he was like, dude, get this, we're making this all beef sausage. And I'm grinding in a 6-pack of beer, a bunch of cheddar cheese, and Cool Ranch Doritos. So my fat kid brain went, I need that. So I I got his recipe, I adapted it to our ratios and everything.
We have to get locally sourced Doritos.
So I did a little small batch in the back and like went back like we do with everything. We taste tested it and we're all just like, this tastes like full on like, what was it, taquitos, and then you're like waiting for it and you're like, but it also tastes like nachos. And it tastes like, it's so dumb, but it's so good and it's not good for you.
Can that be
But
the
it's
next
delicious.
V Miller t-shirt? So dumb, but so good.
That's my nickname in high school. But like it's just the weird stuff, and so like the look on people's faces, like we're like this, everything's naturally sourced, and you're like we're like this hippy dippy butcher shop, which is totally cool. Like, what's in that Cool Ranch Luke? You're like, 3 bags of Doritos and cheese. And did I mention a 6-pack of beer? And they're like, I'll have 6.
I'll have.
So it's you know we don't. I think one of the kind of the really cool things about my shop is that I'm the first person that's gonna make fun of myself for anything. And I don't take myself super seriously. I take what I do very seriously, but I 100% have a lot of fun doing it. And like, I'll just make weird stuff because it's delicious and it's totally fun.
I don't remember you ever letting us have fun when I was working
Well,
here.
it's because I fired you 5 times, Dave.
Well,
Never got on board.
I still say it was 6.
We're gonna get you a plaque
You keep saying I'm getting a plaque.
one of these days. You know, that one's really cool. And then the other really weird one we've been doing for the last little while is it's called Steve.
Oh, the Steve.
The Steve.
No.
I wanted to eat like a frisee salad with like blue cheese and some sort of porky product and pears.
Jeez, you gonna throw some figs in there too, or something?
No figs.
Or no figs.
But
Okay.
I was just like, that sounds like almost like a cheese plate, and like it just, damn it, it sounds good. But like blue cheese and leeks and pears are such a classic pairing,
that's
right?
classic. Yeah.
So they don't have like, it doesn't have like a classic name. It's not like, oh, like, well, that's a Waldorf salad or like the ambrosia jello salad, and this is what's in that, right?
Hashtag ambrosia sausage.
So good, served in a butt pan. So we have a customer of ours that just really great dude, like great, not as great as you, Dave, but he's a great guy. We were we gotten to know him and relaxed and tell jokes with the guy. Super great. And then one afternoon, and he called up and was placing this weird order for at like 4:30 or 5 o'clock, right before we closed. And I'm like, yeah, can I get a name for this order? And he goes, Steve motherfucking Peterson. And I was like, all right. So anytime he comes in, if you're in here and someone drops an F-bomb, he's generally standing behind you.
Yeah.
But we couldn't come up with a name for it, and he was the first guy in the door as we were tasting
So
the
you
sausage.
just-
So we're like, why don't we just call it Steve?
And that's how things are done around here.
That's
folks.
how we do things around here, on the up and up. But like the sausage case is my pride and joy. I, alongside with the guys, the butcher team, the prepared foods team, we kind of all culminate and everything gets put together. Everybody does their pieces and parts, but I spend the better part of my Wednesdays, sometimes Tuesdays, inside the cooler grinding everything, which is another kind of unique thing about the shop is we cut everything out here where you can see what we're doing. So if you come in during the week, there's usually meat hanging from the ceiling. If you're squeamish, that's kind of not sorry on that one, but it's the real deal. So this is where meat comes from, right? So we break down everything, we get it all going. I spend the better part of the day in the cooler, and the reason we have everything in the cooler is my machines stay cold, the meat stays cold, so I don't have any problems with emulsification issues or buying problems, anything like that. But also what we find is that if that meat stays that constant temperature for the entire process all the way through, we get a longer shelf life to it. So it lasts a little bit longer, which means it lasts a little bit longer for sale out here, which like there's really never an issue. We sell enough sausage that it's not like, oh, what are we gonna do with that?
Right.
It's just gone.
Yeah.
Which
Hey, how many pounds of sausage are you going through a week now?
we're
How many cases?
We're about 320 right now.
320
About
pounds of
320
sausage.
on an average week.
Cranking it out.
So yeah, pre-pandemic it was about 220.
And so during pandemic, you guys you're rocking a lot more.
Yeah. So we're selling a lot more stuff.
You have that shorter food chain. Fewer links in the food chain, right?
So it's just I mean I think we touched on it the first time we talked.
Yeah.
And yeah, so commercial or commodity meat basically will go from like, we'll just even take grass-fed beef for instance. It'll go from the pasture and then it'll get trucked to a feedlot. And it'll be on the feedlot and then it'll get trucked to a processor. And then the processor will dispatch the animal. And a lot of times it's cut up into bits at the processor. And a lot of times it'll get trucked to a different processor. So we're like, this carbon footprint's just doing this, right? All of my animals basically go from the ranch to the processor to me. So we have a really short carbon footprint. We also have, that also kind of lends us to a lot more control as to what we're getting. We always know the quality. We've been to every one of their processors. We have relationships with all those guys. They know nobody's cutting corners anyways because they're all small and they're all really proud of what they're doing. But it's always the right animals. It's always the right cut. It's always the right break. The delivery schedules are on schedule. Like my pork comes in at 4 o'clock in the morning when nobody's here. My beef comes in between, I can say religiously, between 9:30 and 10 on Wednesdays, generally speaking.
I was here when all of that was getting figured out still.
Yeah,
right?
so for a long time
awesome.
they're like, well,
That's
maybe we'll
awesome.
show up on Thursday, maybe we'll show
Yeah.
up on Tuesday. It didn't know, or we didn't know.
It's so
And-
important because space is so limited here. Knowing when those windows are happening allows
Yeah.
you to run traffic for the whole week.
Well, and we're on schedule.
Yeah.
Which is for what we do. That's the schedule. So Tuesday, my other butcher Christian and I break pig legs. We make all the sausage kits. We get sell stuff to people. Just get the walking cleaned out and ready for the next set of deliveries. So we take in all that pork. We start breaking pigs. Start doing all that stuff, and then Wednesday morning, pig butchery is finished up by the time beef shows up, and then the guys start breaking beef. They're breaking beef all day Wednesday, and then most of the day Thursday, and then kind of cleanup day is Friday, and then Friday and Thursday, Friday, Saturday are, well, Sunday too, are rather busy. So we have to get that stuff done into usable form before the weekend, before like the end of the week. So when we go to sell things, like every time something comes out of the case, we can put something back in the case. So everything gets basically broken down out here on the table or off the hook into like portionable pieces or sub-primals as they're called. So that's kind of like how the operation works. So right in the back now, there's whole carcass hanging, there's primals, there's sub-primals. There's a lot of meat back there, but when I come into work on Tuesday morning, it's gone.
It's all gone.
Yeah.
You guys are moving product during COVID.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So it's been really good for the business. Totally. We're immensely grateful for everybody that's been trusting us to put food on their table for them. But I think we were joking about it a little while ago. It only took 5 years in a global pandemic to prove my business model.
Yeah.
But
they said it couldn't be done.
They said it couldn't be done. The little shop that could.
But even before COVID, it seemed like it was Joe.
Yeah, we were starting
Yeah.
really over the last 2 years. Like my team is really
Your
I
crew
have all
gel.
the right people in place. Everybody works really well together. Everybody's nice. And
Finally got rid of that Nelson guy.
Finally got rid of Nelson for the 6th time. And just everybody's really happy. Like you don't have a bad day coming to work. He's like, cool. And it's pretty cool, honestly. Like
You play good
you
music.
You get to play cool stuff, and you like tell jokes and like cut meat and eat snacks, and it's a pretty fun place to work. So when people come in, like Right now it's a little different environment because we still do a ton of phone orders. Like people call in, anytime after 10 in the morning, and then we just we'll load it up, call them back, meet them in the parking lot, bring out the meats. So this is something that's really helpful because our phone business was something we weren't set up to do. We didn't like doing it. It was really frustrating for the first 3-4 weeks of the lockdown because we were, and again, super grateful. We were gaining so many new customers, so much traction because of that short food chain. Smithfield closed down. The cool thing is like, we were able to, and we took the time, like, without fail, I could say, no matter how busy everybody was, which is and always. I mean, you've worked here, you know how busy everybody is. Yeah. Everybody treated each one of those phone calls with like the utmost of like respect and like I understand. Like people are freaking out.
We're freaking.
So like if you're freaking out, the last thing you want is some jackass on the other end of the phone.
Yeah.
You're like, you don't want a skirt steak. You're like, no, jackass, I want a skirt steak. Like put it in the bag and bring it to my car. So that was a big switch. So people like call, and then we would, like, oh, I'm looking for this, and we play a little bit. I don't carry that, but I have this. You should try that, and this is how you cook it. And
That's
like,
how you play that.
so many people coming back, and just like, can't believe it took me this long to find the joint. It's been really cool. So even our frozen stuff and our prepared meals and all that stuff. It's just like we sell out. Like we're like Metallica. We sell out every time.
Every time.
Just like Metallica. Just like Metallica, who never sued me for that T-shirt, by the way.
Well, hey, you're still working on it. Still working on it.
We only have one freezer in the whole shop, and this is our freezer, so it has to hold some of our stuff that we use for product, like a little bit of frozen pork fat if we end up with too much after sausage production, pig's blood, stuff that we use for whatever. But in there's always. Not always. It's a rotating cast of characters in there. But the chicken pot pie, I think we fed the better part of East Sacramento.
You were cranking out pot pies
we were doing like,
for COVID.
At the first 3 weeks, I think we were doing 75 pot pies a week. And we roast the chickens here. We cook the potatoes. We cook the celery, the onions, the carrots. We make the gravy. Like this is not like, like, oh, let's just open the box and put them in our Like these are
You don't
all,
have
like,
a full kitchen back.
No, like these are like dishes and meals and little ideas and snacks and stuff that are prepared by dudes that you would go to their restaurant if they were working in a restaurant and have a restaurant and have a really phenomenal meal. So like every little ingredient's all looked after, and like Brandon, who does the most of our prepared foods, is like the dude is crazy meticulous, like, but not obnoxiously so. But every ingredient is treated like with a ton of care. He's got doing meatballs, and they make a Sunday sauce, which is like a pasta sauce, but it's more than a pasta sauce. It's like super meaty. Like I make sloppy joes out of it.
Yeah.
And then excuse me.
Pet food too.
We started making dog food out of it's about 40% organ meats, and then there's sweet potatoes and rice and whole eggs, yogurt, and all kinds of stuff in there. That's what my dog eats. And then over in the fridge or the meat locker, like there's rendered fats. So there's rendered pork fat, there's rendered duck fat, there's rendered beef tallow.
I'm always buying that stuff.
So really great cooking fats. The pork leaf lard is really great for baking. I've baked a little bit with tallow. Makes everything taste like beef, which is kind of good, but like also
for savory applications, savory baking.
It's put on, like we make mustard. We kind of cure. I don't know. Is mustard a ferment or is that a cure? I don't know. Whichever.
It's a cure.
It is.
Yeah.
So we cure our own mustard. We make our own sauerkraut. We ferment our own sauerkraut. The ever popular fancy sauce, which used to be the staple of our breakfast sandwiches, which have gone away for now.
Bulk sausage,
bulk breakfast sausage, bulk
chorizo,
and then bone broth. So the miracle cure all of everything. So it's a super healthy way to get like collagen and proteins and all that stuff in your system.
It's got a nice,
but also like
coffee or something.
Like, and you can cook with it, like, you know, just like you would stock.
Yeah.
I don't put any vegetables in it because I learned a long time ago, and I'm like, I don't even know if we've ever had this conversation. I don't put vegetables in stock.
I remember you saying you don't put carrots in it.
I don't put carrots in it.
Maybe that was an early development.
In it,
yeah.
Because if you're making a soup, you're going to put carrot, celery, and onion in it. If you're making a stew, you're going to be doing that too. So this is just a really good, really clean base. And like the beef bone broth in particular, in the kettle, it's about 20, 25 pounds of bones and about 8 gallons of water.
Wow.
Which gets reduced down to, or cooked for about 24 hours and then quartered up. But the stuff is so freaking gelatinous that it's like jello, like a really stiff jello. But as soon as you heat it up, you know.
Slippery.
And then like the bird bone broth, I don't know if there's any in there right now.
I don't think so.
Or maybe that's all bird.
Oh, that's all bird.
Yeah, so the
It's
bird
all
bone
bird.
broth, you know, going back to the first case, going back to Whole Animal Butchery, so we have chicken carcasses that we bring in from an organic chicken farm. They're not from our pasture birds because we'll break them. And then we roast those bones, and then we also take all of our duck carcasses about every other week on the duck carcasses because we have another outlet for those. Those get fortified into the bird bone broth.
Nice.
So
nice.
it's like chicken stock, but like way richer, way darker, way more flavorful. So like once you taste or cook anything in either of those broths, it changes everything.
So you don't want to go back.
You're never going to go back to
That's what you're saying.
that stuff in the box, which who knows what that stuff is.
They have stock in the box.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Like, #1 ingredient, not stock.
I think it's salt, right? It's salt.
Yeah, I think it's just like a salt lick in a box with some water thrown into it. And then,
Well, we
like,
have the official boutique.
I think you dubbed it the gift shop.
The
I
gift
think
shop,
It's
yeah.
always been the gift shop ever
boutique.
since, but
Yeah. You better believe
a
it.
bunch of different rubs from the All Spicery that we a couple of them we kind of, I know one of them for sure. The second one I think was kind of in the works as it was, but we're like, we want to carry some of your stuff. And she's like, what do you want? And I was just like, oh, we want A, B, and C. And she's like, oh, I don't make that. Let me work on it. So like that Korean barbecue rub she makes just for us. That's it.
Right on. A couple of these are exclusive then, huh?
Nah, I can't find that at the store. So it's like fairly spicy, gingery, stuff like that. Jerk seasoning. So like anything you want to season, you can kind of go almost around the world on that stuff. They're all really good, locally made. Heather, was a very good customer of ours before we realized that she owned the House Spicery, and then we're like, huh. So we get spices for her for sausage, and we just kind of symbiotically deal with that. We carry an olive oil from Pemry. One we just came
That's
in.
this one.
She was referred to us by Brad Chipney, as luck would have it.
So he's using that over at Cannon, huh?
I would expect, and he was just like, you got to taste this stuff. It's really cool. She's local. They're growing olives here. Taste it. So we have two different kinds: the enhanced and the transform. The enhanced is kind of like what I would say the everyday olive oil, and the transform, which we've restocked a few times now, is like it's really bright. It's really peppery. It's almost spicy. So like tomato salads and all that kind of
So
stuff.
big
going
flavor.
On right now.
You wouldn't cook with this thing.
No, not that
Finishing
one.
only.
The enhanced for sure. And then,
Yeah.
like we worked on it for years. I was like, we should develop our own barbecue sauce. I don't know. I just developed a Texas accent because I did. For years, I'm like, we should do that. We've made small batches, and we're like, that's really good. We should do that. And it's a pain in the ass, and nobody really wanted to do it. And then we didn't want to bottle it.
You're
and it
not
was
set
just
up
like,
for that stuff here.
That's just not our
Yeah.
jam. So, truth be told, probably twice a month, someone comes in with a barbecue sauce and is like, hey.
Oh wow.
We're like, cool, we eat it. Like, meh. Like, and then we always go through this. Like, is it local? Yeah, no. Is it really delicious? Yeah, no. Obviously the price point on it, yeah, no. Like, I can't sell a $15 bottle of barbecue sauce. It just can't happen. Too much competition.
Huh.
And like, you know, were the people nice and like, you know, like, and then the other thing too is, does it have a story? What's the story behind that? Why would someone want that? Which I think when you go to like a grocery store, nobody's there telling you like, oh, you should try this, check this out. And this guy, he just came, we were busy. I think there was a line like out the door, like it was on Saturday. He came in all masked up. I think he had gloves on. He's like, hey, my name's Cornelius. My family makes barbecue sauce. I was just wondering if you wanted to try it. And I was like, sure, dude.
Here's another one.
Yeah, totally.
Get ready.
Whoa. So, took it to the back. We just happened to have some like roast pork or something in the back. Tasted it. I was like, guys, now taste this now. And they were like, wow, that's good. And I was like, taste the hot one. And we're like, that's really good because most of the barbecue sauces they say are hot, and you take it, you taste it. You're like a chef, right? You know this trick. You taste it, you're like, no, it needs a little more spice. You tasted this much, dude. Like imagine eating like a whole half rack of ribs with that on it. You'd be lit up. And it's a really great balance of like sweet and hot. And so I went back, I called this guy back and he's like, oh, I'll come talk to you on the next day. So he rolls in and he's like, yeah, so this recipe comes from my great-great-great-grandfather. My grandmother's name is Hazel. We make this, it's so passed down through like 4 or 5 generations. Made locally in Sacramento. And we're just like, tick, 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 tick. And I'm like, and it's
ticking
delicious.
all the boxes.
Just send it. So we've been putting that on a lot of stuff at snack time.
So we're talking about Hazel's right here,
Hazels,
huh?
yeah.
So that's the hot right there I'm looking at. Oh, there's the hot.
On it, yeah. And then
There's
the
the
mild.
hot.
The mild,
And
like
the mild.
my kids went nuts for it. I've never seen them really like ask for more barbecue sauce. They were really into it.
Well, they're not drinking it, are they?
They might be.
Oh my
You
gosh,
never know
these
with
kids.
You never know.
Well, that's the shop, Eric.
So yeah, that was probably the longest tour we've ever given.
I think so. But it was the best. I
Might be the
practically
best,
work
probably.
here. All right, well, we'll call it a day, man. Thanks for everything, and I'm going to put this up tomorrow. I got to do
All right.
a bunch of editing
Cool.
and stuff. And
That was the mighty Eric Veldman-Miller from V Miller Meats in Sacramento, California. You need to get over to his shop. If you've never been over there, they are doing meat right, okay? Especially during these times of COVID, it sounds like just that idea of knowing the rancher, where that meat comes from. It makes one stop on the way to his butcher shop, and that's it, It doesn't get any tighter than that, right? So really good things to think about in these times. So get over to his shop, and don't forget to subscribe to Industry Cooking Classes over on YouTube. I got a ton of videos over there, how to cook. I'm also talking to a ton of people about how they're making food happen during COVID. It's really, really interesting stuff. I enjoy it. I hope you do too, okay? In between now and then, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget that the party is always going to be in the kitchen, okay? Take care. We'll see ya.